Hello, everyone. Remy Meraz, co-founder of Zella Life. For those that don't know, Zella Life is a coaching as a service platform, and we strengthen emotional intelligence and soft skills, specifically in the workplace. And today I'm joined by Dr. Jonathan Dean. We had a candid, random conversation last week and talked about some different things that were going on in the world. And we decided, let's do this on video and talk about some things and let's help some people while we're at it. So, without further ado, Dr. Jonathan Dean, why don't you go ahead and give everyone an introduction into who you are and what you're about?
Thank you, Remy. First and foremost, it's an honor to do this with you. Thank you very much. Yes, I am Dr. Jonathan Dean, PsyD. I spend most of my time treating addiction and other maladaptive behaviors, whether it's helping someone with sports, whether it's helping offenders and so forth. And I'm trained as a marriage and family therapist. I also hold a master's degree in religious studies and a bachelor's in organizational leadership. And I do some other things for the federal government. I also own a behavioral health company, Motivation Specialist LLC, and I do a lot of work through family court and criminal court, forensic work, if you will. Again, thank you for allowing me to be here.
You're so welcome. Wow, with all that you're doing, when do you sleep?
Sleep. What is that? What is
Yeah. What came out of our conversation was around coping
Yes.
and how
Yes.
people are coping today in this wild, crazy world that we're living in. And what we're seeing at Zella Life is an increase in burnout,
Ye
a lot of layoffs going on around the country.
Mhm.
People are living and feeling uncertain about what's happening with their careers, with life, and it's creating a lot of stress and anxiety. And we're getting a lot of folks outside of Zella Life, through LinkedIn, through other social channels, people reaching out, asking for tips and strategies on how to cope and deal with everything going on. And when layoffs happen too, you see an increase in workloads. And this whole thing of work life balance just seems not achievable,
Almost non-existent.
non existent.
Yeah.
Tell me what you're seeing on your end.
Yeah, that's a great question, Remy. What I'm seeing on my end is pretty much the same thing. My approach to it all, if I may go there,
Sure.
and whether it's a person looking at divorce, whether it's a veteran, a military person about to go overseas, a person getting ready for a big game, or what have you, I encourage my people to develop a contingency plan. I know a lot of people will say, well, if you have a plan B, you don't plan to be successful in your plan A. I wholeheartedly disagree with that.
Mm.
And since we're talking about coping, I can't help but speak to the aforementioned. When a person, it's been my experience in working with people, when they know that they have a plan B in case A doesn't work out, they're about to lose their job, and they have education, let's say. Well, start planning to use your education just piece by piece. COVID was a great example of that. A lot of people did do well during COVID. They found their inner self. "Hey, I'm an entrepreneur. I didn't know I had this, whether it was a plan B or not. And then, even if you don't have an education or a large sum of money to fall back on, we all have, we're we're survivors.
Mhm.
It's just whether or not a person decides to see the brighter side of a situation, if that makes any sense to you.
Ab-
And if I may just share this bit with you, I get to work with people that have done a lot of time in prison. And there's a term called being institutionalized. So a
yeah.
lot of times people will come out and with tears in their eyes, hey, I don't want to go back, but they have no problems going back because they're used to it. Where am I going with this? is that so a person says, I don't want to go back, motivational interviewing. What do you want?
What do you want?
What do you, what are you willing to do to keep from going back? That person who doesn't hesitate to come up with something, prognosis, great. Those who hesitate, that's where my work begins because I know they want something different. It all comes down to coping with those urges. Can't go hang out with the incorrigibles, we'll call them, right? You can't do that, but you get the urge. Let's replace that urge with something else.
Mhm.
Coping, adjusting. We learn a lot of that in the Marine Corps.
Talk to me about that reframe
Mm,
opportunity that comes with challenges and adversity, and especially when you're in the moment, because we all know that thoughts and words have energy. Our thoughts create our feelings, create our behaviors, which comes in the form of choices and actions.
yes.
So there's this beautiful opportunity when you are in the moment and feeling a certain way or thinking a certain thing. And before you go down the rabbit hole, there's an opportunity to reframe. Talk to
Mm,
me about how you help me do that.
mm, perfect. Woo! Oh, I don't know how much time we have, but we can do this. Oh,
We're flowing. We're flowing.
here's the deal. When you have a situation, I don't know, you're on your way to your date and you start, what if this happens? What if that happens? Whoa, let's take a look at remaining present.
Yes.
What if this doesn't happen? And you get to your destination and things are well, right? I call that staying in the moment, being present, focus on the positive, the here and the now, right? Yeah, what if? But what if this is a successful outing? So it's about catching it,
Yes.
a mantra, if you will, a
Yes.
mantra. Man, I got to, can I just share something personal?
Sure.
I almost talked myself out of taking a drug and alcohol certification yesterday because I didn't have anything to study. It is weird. Here's a test, they go do it. I almost allowed myself to go into the what if I fail, using my own skills, cognitive reframing. Wait a minute. What if you pass?
But what if you pass?
Motivational interviewing. What would your life be like if you chose to focus on the positive? You're going to pass. How would you feel? I feel great. Take it and run with it. And I apply that with each and every person I encounter. It doesn't matter the situation. If a person is willing to accept change, the possibility of a positive outcome, we can plant the seed, a mantra, if you will, and let's work with this mantra. Yeah, the inevitable happens. It does, but we can't control what hasn't happened. But
Right.
we do have control over the present.
Yes.
That's the short form, Remy.
Yes. I call it when you're in the moment, you start going into the what ifs. Eh, I call that storytelling.
Yes.
We're
Or
just
fortune telling.
yeah, fortune telling. We're creating stories,
Yep.
and then we start believing they're true and that they happened, and then nothing has even happened. But you believe it's happened already. And and people don't realize that we are the cause of our own suffering. 99% of the time, we are the cause of our own suffering.
Right. That's right. That's beautiful.
Yeah, and it's an opportunity to learn how to get out of our own way.
I like that. And I share that a lot with people.
Mhm.
It's what? Get out of the way of self.
Let's take a workplace situation.
Mhm.
Because what we're seeing of, and I just did a post on this today actually about this convergence of three different dynamics. And this has really been happening over the last 4 years when the George Floyd incident happened,
Right.
pandemic, and then it's actually four things. It's pandemic, George Floyd, cancel culture, and call out culture. Because
Call out culture.
those are two different things. People are quick to call people out,
Mm.
quick to call them out. Maybe not cancel them, but maybe just calling people out without knowing the facts. I just watched a documentary the other day about a woman who was kidnapped, and then the media ran with it and said that she faked it, that her and her husband faked it. It was the, Gone Girl movie, like,
Yes.
real life version of this happened, but
Yes.
people were quick to call her out and condemn her without knowing the facts and literally ruin this woman's life. And then
Mhm.
a police officer actually found the guy who actually did commit this crime against her and many other women, by the way. And so then but her reputation had been damaged literally for several years because of this. But people like to call people out. So call out culture,
Mhm.
cancel culture, the pandemic, George Floyd, political stuff happening, heightened sensitive times,
Mhm.
culturally sensitive times. And so what it's creating and what we're seeing showing up, and we're calling it the walking on eggshells phenomenon, right? It's a
Mhm.
whole new version of this where
Uh-huh.
now managers, and it happens in other arenas too, but managers are afraid to give honest feedback to their team members.
Mhm. Mhm.
They're afraid to give honest feedback to their team members. So everybody loses.
Mhm. Mhm.
Team members because they're missing out on learning, growth, and advancement opportunities, right? If they're not getting the information they need to learn and grow, they can advance, which then creates this next segue of them wanting to leave the organization. They feel stuck
Yeah.
and they don't feel seen, valued, heard, respected, any of that. And then the managers are missing out on the opportunity to grow themselves as leaders that comes with those moments of being able to give honest feedback to somebody and how to have, right, we don't call them difficult conversations anymore. We call them brave conversations and the
Mhm.
opportunity to step into bravery,
Yeah.
which then builds
Mhm.
confidence.
Mhm.
When you learn how to navigate conflict and have a brave conversation. Let's address that piece, the fear part, because then what happens is people are up, then move to operating in avoidance.
Oh, yes. Yep.
So if you're in fear, you are going to avoid, and it's because of these outliers that are going on in the world that's like now surging in people and in work.
Mhm. Mhm.
What would you do for that? What would you say for that person? What's a strategy or piece of advice?
Okay. Thank you so much for this. May I play the role of a manager, please?
Sure.
So let's talk about effective communication, whether it's I statements, which is one of my favorite tools, and the other one is the sandwich method. Remy, I think you're able to read minds. And by the way, is it okay if I say to people, this is unscripted? This is
Yeah,
us
totally.
talking.
Completely.
Th- This is,
Completely.
once again, beautiful. So if I'm a manager, do you mind if I role play with you, please?
Yes, I need some feedback.
Yes. I'm going to use the sandwich method and I'm going to intertwine I statements.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So I'm your supervisor and you are doing a good job. However, I've been noticing some discrepancies in your work. So here we go. Remy, how are you doing today?
Doc, I am feeling fantastic.
I love it. I love it. Do you have a moment? I'd like to speak with you.
Oh, sure. Is everything okay?
Oh, everything is fine. We can meet here in your office or mine, whichever suits you the best.
Yeah, come on in.
Okay, great. Do you mind if I have a seat?
No, go ahead.
Okay, great. Let's have a seat. Remy, you've been with us for 7 years. And not only have you been here for 7 years, I've noticed a lot of your peers look up to you. I don't know if you noticed this, but you're a god around here, right?
Wow. Really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And we're
Didn't
looking at
notice.
promoting you. No, I'll be honest with you. My partners and I are looking at promoting someone, and your name rolls off of everyone's tongue. We really want you in this next position, which is a vice president position.
Oh,
How do you
wow.
feel about that?
Wow, really?
Yes,
I had never
really.
seen myself in that role. I definitely want to grow and learn, but I hadn't even considered that.
Mhm. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And there are a few things that we're slightly concerned about. Hence the reasons why we're meeting today. We've noticed that you focus a lot of your time building up those who are pretty much like you, go-getters. You're extremely tenacious, you're motivated, you're a self-starter, and I've noticed that you gravitate towards those who are like you. It's good. However, we're only as strong as our weakest link. I'm wondering, would you be amenable to maybe, and I know you know who they are, to working with those who maybe aren't so motivated, maybe not so as overzealous as you are and an overachiever? Could you see yourself coaching them and mentoring them? Could you see yourself doing that?
I could. I thought I was doing that.
Okay. Okay. And you are. I think we can add a little bit more seasoning to it.
Okay.
Okay. By doing so, once again, we need you in this next spot, but we need to know that you can cover the entire playing field of leadership because you're fine everywhere else. And we can't commend you enough other than to promote you. How does that sound?
This sounds great. Do you have some tips for me? Is this something where there's leadership development opportunities for me?
Absolutely. In fact, there's a convention in Florida, and we have a seat for you. We're going to bring you along with us.
So I'm going to be getting mentorship from the C-suite team.
You're going to receive everything that you need to be exactly what we need from you, and we know where you want to be in your professional development. Is that a yes?
That's a yes.
Okay. So what I just performed or demonstrated was what I didn't coin it. It's called the sandwich method. You start with the praise. You go to the concern, which would be the meat, or if you're vegetarian, the lettuce or whatever. And then the last piece of bread is the praise again. And if you notice, I used a lot of I statements instead of you.
Mhm.
Or I'll say, we've noticed, I've noticed,
Mhm.
that you. Instead of, see, so there's no fear in me having this conversation with you.
Mhm.
If I know how to properly communicate and my heart is in the right place, you don't miss. You don't.
Mhm.
If you know yourself and you know your people, things will be fine. Now, at the end of the day, I'm not responsible for how you feel. If I know that I handled you with kid gloves,
Mhm.
all the while I'm speaking with you, I'm reading your body language, facial expressions, those microbes.
Yes.
As long as your body language is open, you're smiling, you're engaged, I'll continue. But the moment you close off or shy away, I know I
Like,
need to gear,
yeah. So
I
let's
need to
hey,
fall
let's do
down.
that. Let's do that. If I went like this,
Mhm. What would I do?
what would you have said?
I would stop myself in my tracks. And because I'm a humorous person, but not at the other person's expense, I would say, oh, Jonathan or Doc, I think I hit a nerve. Remy, how are you feeling right now?
A little nervous?
Do you want to talk about the nerves?
Yes.
Please do. Please.
I just feel a little uneasy because I'm not sure what we're going to talk about. It just you being in my office and saying you want to talk about something makes me anxious
And the concern would be,
that I'm in trouble,
and why would you be in trouble?
that I'm not doing a good job. I'm not doing something right.
No, you've been here for 7 years. You know our style around here. If someone was in trouble, or if we had a heightened concern, how do we normally approach those situations? If we were to have,
Do you? I don't know. What's your policy? Yeah.
you would
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
We would just approach you.
Yes. Just like your policy.
Right. Do you, is it possible for you to be nervous because A dream is coming true. You've been wanting this next step. Maybe you don't feel you're ready. Could it be that?
I've been reading about this thing called imposter syndrome
Oh, tell me about it. How does it apply to how you're feeling?
because I've been af afraid to go after positions because I didn't think I was qualified enough, or
Mm.
I see other people that I think do better work than me, and I feel they're more qualified than I am.
Mm. Do you really believe that?
Not necessarily, I know I can do it, but what if I fail? And then people are gonna be like, "Yeah, we knew she didn't have it in her, and we knew she
Uh,
could do it."
And if you had a magic wand, what would you do with the unknown?
I would make it true. Make it true that I was right fit for it, that I do a great job, that I am qualified for it.
Why don't we utilize that magic wand? I wouldn't be here talking with you on behalf of the entire management team. Now look at what happened with your body language.
Yeah, my arms came down.
Yeah,
And we're role playing.
yeah. I'm speaking to your truth.
Yeah. Mhm.
Now keep in mind, I'm trained at this is going to sting a little bit to those who may be listening. Leadership is it's not an art. There are art forms. Good leaders were born to be that. As life goes on, we learn certain skills to sharpen what we already have. I
Right.
think I mentioned this to you once before.
Okay.
You said something you spoke to what I don't have a degree. I don't have this. And what did I say?
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
you have a gift.
Yeah. You said I
You're
have a gift and
gifted.
I was born to do this.
Exactly. So that's what I do. As a good leader, I watch my people and I identify their strengths and their weaknesses and identify their blind spots. I know my people. And that's what a good leader would do. So when it's
100%.
time to have a conversation with that person,
Mhm.
whether I'm praising them or I have to reprimand them, I know how I'm going to approach them.
Yeah, that self-awareness as a leader is so key because even with what we see, we had a situation at Zello Life, we were coaching a team and we use data analytics to mine the coaching reports for pervasive conversation themes. And we picked up on an entire team was complaining about the comp plan in their coaching sessions. The entire cohort that we were coaching from this organization. And when the coaches were asking them if they were sharing their feedback and ideas on the comp plan, everybody said no.
Hmm,
Everybody. And the AI also picked up on why they were saying no.
really?
And there were 3 reasons that came up, and it was imposter syndrome, lack of psychological safety, and they just didn't know how to self-advocate properly.
Gotcha.
And the other piece of it was they were also complaining that the people who were getting recognized and rewarded or promoted were the squeaky wheels. A
Mm,
and so then it becomes a challenge back. Are they really a squeaky wheel? Or are they self-advocating properly? And is there something going on within you that's keeping you from self-advocating properly,
mhm,
right? To challenge. And what we learned from all of that is that people's upbringing, their how they were raised, their cultural backgrounds, their family dynamics, religious backgrounds, all play can play a part in their inability to self-advocate properly. If you look up the checklist of how does someone self-advocate properly, because someone may have been told over and over again, just keep your head down and work hard. Don't make any mistakes. In someone's cultural background, if you challenge a parent, a leader, an elder, then you're being disrespectful.
right.
So giving feedback would be challenging someone in a leadership role would be considered disrespectful.
That's correct.
And so there's just all these nuances. And so we shared that with the leadership stakeholders, and the coaches were working with the employees on teaching confidence building, the soft skills, EQ, all of that, in building up their ability to self advocate. But then we went and did a training for the leaders, and it turned out half the leaders didn't even know all the components of self advocacy. So you could see where the disconnect is, right? And then the result
Yes.
and what was going on was several people were looking for new jobs
Oh.
because they thought the comp plan was, unfair and inequitable, and that they only care about certain people. Coaching them, getting to see, having them hold up the mirror to themselves and get out of
Mhm.
their own way. Things shifted within the individuals, but then also we had the ability to share with leadership and coach them up, train them up as well. And we got everybody talking on from the same language and talking from the same page. And then turns out the comp plan got reviewed, and it was just two small tweaks that they needed to make in order to make it fair and equitable. And so now people felt valued and heard. The people who are quitting no longer quitting. It's pretty powerful, but it's all about that self awareness piece. Everybody raised the bar on their self awareness and how they were showing up as the talent and how they were showing up as a leader. Self awareness,
Yeah, thus yielding superb results.
phenomenal results. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
Let's talk about how burnout and all of these things that are going on affect people's mental health.
Man, that's a deep one, Remy. It's a deep one, and it's pretty, in my opinion, pretty subjective. We don't know what people are doing outside of work. We don't know what's going on. We don't know if someone's busting their butt at work and they got to go sleep in their car.
Mm.
They have to go home to abuse. They're struggling with addiction. They're just not meant to be in that position. They're not working within their gift. They've been forcing it. They don't know how to take time off. I'm guilty of that. You mentioned it earlier, self-awareness. Like, how do you really feel? I encourage my clients to always check in with themselves. There's a little humor. And when I say that, they're always like, really? Don't. I'm not saying walk around with a clipboard and checking yourself. How am I feeling today? It's 12 noon. That's not what I'm saying. It's like being tuned with yourself.
Yes. Yes.
And management can help with that. Again, I noticed that you're doing a great job at work. I noticed things about you didn't even notice.
Mhm.
So management can help with that. But it really depends on the person. Some people don't think they're burned out. Their productivity's going down, but they show up to work excited
Yeah.
to not put out quality production.
Mhm.
It's really comes on an individual. That's an interesting question.
Yeah.
Mm. What do
So it
you
really
think?
comes down so it really comes down to, I think there's a few things, right? Definitely what's on people's plate, we don't know.
Yeah.
And within the workplace, there's this imaginary line about how much we share with our
Ye-
personal life with our colleagues and our leaders. And so there's
mm,
a fear component that shows up. And then the other piece of it is the resilience factor.
Yeah.
Everybody has a resilience quotient,
Yes.
and we don't know where those are at. Look, I'm in the business of empowering people to
Yes.
take accountability for their emotional healing, for their personal development, for their growth, that you can't be dependent on anybody to do that but yourself. It's your responsibility. My point being is you can't depend on the workplace to do it for you. Like, you
Right.
have to take control of your career and your growth and development. But a great workplace does support you in your development, in your growth.
Mhm.
And especially when it comes to succession planning. And we get it. Like, and that's why we started Vela Life, right? Like, how do we do this at scale with everybody? But when it comes to mental health, and there's these imaginary lines and people again tiptoeing and walking on eggshells, how can an organization support people around this, or what's their responsibility? in the support role.
And I have an answer.
Yeah.
And I have to keep this part of this answer anonymous, but my position with the government, and everyone knows I don't play for brownie points. Our management, which we call leadership at the top, hired the right supervisors to facilitate everything you've just mentioned. When I heard you use the term accountability, I could have fell out of my chair. Big word. That's a gigantic word. Accountability?
Yes.
Ooh, the word accountability. You mean like ownership? You mean be responsible for my part?
Co-creation. We're all co-creators. Everything in
Right?
life is a co-creation. People don't realize
Right?
how much power they have in
You.
in in the workplace, in their role, in their daily life, in relationships and dating and who you choose. That's our greatest superpower is the power of choice. You have
You
the
said it earlier. Know thyself.
know thyself. Mhm. Yeah.
So we have great leadership and all that mean. Man, you've hit on some points. We're going to be here for several days. Oh,
We might just have to just theory.
you know, you use the word fear. Fear to be transparent, be authentic. Who's watching? All of that, in my opinion, and coming from a good work environment, a very healthy one, we're allowed to be authentic. Now, watch, we're allowed to be who we are. We're protected by healthy management. I know you could ask, what's healthy management? That's a whole nother chapter.
Yeah.
So, if we're talking about burnout, imagine every day going to work and you can't be who you are.
I would die. I've actually been in workplaces where I felt that. So I know exactly what it feels like to not be able to be yourself.
But you got to pay your bills.
Yeah.
You
It's
got
a
to.
place to be. Yeah.
But if you've got the right management, the right leadership in place that will professionally and appropriately coddle you and say, listen,
Yeah.
I see what you're going through. Come on, let's have a chat. Boom, boom. It's okay.
Yeah.
Keep doing what you're doing. I'll take care of the rest because they are the ultimate overseers, correct?
Mhm.
If you have good management.
Yeah.
And then that management has great overseers. You see, it trickles down. Everything that you mentioned thus far, if you, okay, it's been my experience. It trickles down from the top. But what happens if the trickling, if you will, is tainted, nasty? That ball rolls uphill and it gets pretty nasty. When the Indians decide to act out, the subordinates, it's a mess, isn't it? So it all starts from the top, in my opinion.
Yeah. And I agree. You have the leadership has to model what they want to see, and the leadership has to
Yes.
have to be in tune with their people.
Yes.
And given the fact that in 7 years there's going to be a population shift and diverse talent are going to be the majority workforce.
Mhm.
And there's going to be some succession planning challenges if you are not training and developing or supporting and knowing your talent in the way they need to be known, especially authentically known, so they can be their best version of leadership self is when you can be authentically you.
Yes. Can
So
I point out? Can I point out something that's not personal?
sure.
I don't think your audience knows what they're about to learn. And find me. You can find me if I'm out of line. You're an avid, successful runner, aren't you?
Sure. Yeah.
Your modesty is appreciated, but let's keep it real. You're good at that.
I'm
Everything that you brought forth in this conversation can be applied to your athletic success? Got a
1,000%.
plan. Yep. See, okay, okay.
1,000%.
So now, so by
And
you,
the reverse, and the reverse,
yes,
because an athlete
yes.
mind, and for those that don't know, I'm a competitive runner,
See,
and but what I apply to running a race,
yeah.
the mindset that you have to apply, the habits that you have to apply to running a race successfully, and let's just say finishing a race.
See,
Finishing a race. For
yeah.
success and time and whatever. Let's just say
Mhm.
finishing the race healthy and
Yeah.
feeling good. There's a discipline that has to go into the training. There's a mindset. You have to get through negative thinking all
Mm.
training season, the whole race. And so it's just applying everything that I do in racing, I apply it to the business. And there is a vice versa piece to that too.
That's right.
Yeah. So,
That's right.
yeah.
That's right. So, as the vice president of the company, you're going to be tasked with finding the hobbies and the talents that people have
Mhm.
and encourage them to utilize the same. That was so beautiful. We get in the podcast. We're done. You just answer everything that you brought forward. It's training this.
Yeah.
It's all
It's all of
transferable
this.
skills. Can,
It's
can,
all
can I use that language? I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, go ahead. Transferable skills.
Yes. And you take that to your professional life.
Yes, agreed. I want to go back to the culture building piece because yes, leadership trickled down, they have to model it. But where I think people are missing out on the opportunity is to build culture from the ground up.
Who are the people that you're referring to? Can you be specific?
Yeah, two sides of the coin. One with the talent themselves, because talent can contribute to building and creating the culture if you take ownership of your own development and your
Yes.
career, right? So there's that
Mhm.
accountability piece there. I think
Yeah.
organizations as well, because let's just take the executive coaching piece, where executive coaching is typically offered to just executives and
Mhm.
a seat typically vice presidents and above. And I get it from a budget and a scaling perspective. It's a limited number of people, but let's be honest, those people can afford it themselves typically, right? They can invest in themselves.
Right.
But where they're missing out on opportunity to develop folks below that executive level line. And what I know is that people are starving for it. And they're starving for development, for leadership. And especially if you come from groups where you may not have had that modeled in your home or in your community or whatever the case may be, right? Now,
Mhm.
luckily with technology and Udemy and YouTube, everybody can take advantage of what's out there and learn and grow. But there's a signal that happens when you actually invest in your talent because then it shows that you care. And it's just a
Right.
way of showing that you care about them. And when it's being built from the bottom up and the top down, and everybody's operating from the same language and the same mindset,
Mhm.
then really powerful, dynamic things happen within organizations
Yes.
in terms of culture. I want to read you something that Adam Grant wrote. I happened to see this earlier today. Adam Grant wrote, the best antidote to burnout is not teaching coping skills to handle stress. It's redesigning work to reduce stress.
Mhm.
To prevent exhaustion, we need to remove overwhelming demands and reject norm of self-sacrifice. Healthy workplaces value well-being as much as performance.
Profound.
Yeah. What are some things that organizations can do to implement some strategies along those lines?
Can I speak to that passage, please?
Yes.
As you were reading that, all I could think about is what America is founded on.
Mm.
Every concern you mentioned prior to reading that passage, America is founded on that. And the thing with that is a lot of successful people have gotten to where they're at today because of everything that we're working towards dispelling. This country believes in hard work and some hardcore sacrifice,
Yeah.
no matter what.
Yeah. Kill yourself.
Come on,
Like,
as an athlete, you're not going to suggest to me or the audience that you have not put your body through things that the average physician would say, I wouldn't do that.
right.
So when you mention culture, are we talking about, I'm just going to say, the American way? Or are
Mm,
we going to break it down to, and I know what you mean. I see it in therapy. Every race has their way of showing up to therapy. They don't even show up
mm-hmm. Right.
because of their cultural beliefs.
Right.
So how do we approach your question? This, if you were born here or even remotely, no, better than that. You take someone who is from another country, bring them here to America. They already know what the mindset is. You're either going to go hard or you need to go home.
Mhm.
How do we diffuse that? Is there a way, rhetorical question, to normalize our way of life here and make it work to our individual needs? Learn that in the Marine Corps, adapt and overcome. No one was born sleeping in it. We weren't born sleeping in jungles and in swamps and eating once every 3 days, but you learn to adjust, right? Same thing with sports, same thing with everything. How do we diffuse what you're suggesting?
Yeah. It
I
has,
mean, really,
yeah, it has to be a paradigm shift and a huge one. And it's
really,
got to,
where does it start?
yeah, I think it has to come from both sides of the fence. And we're starting to see it now, right? Because God bless this younger generation. They're going to get the 4-day work week in America because they're demanding it. They're not down with this. I'm going to kill myself at, at a job that I saw my parents do. And so I think there's some things they need to be learned and adjusted to, but they're demanding work-life balance. And the workplaces are, and I see there's phenomenal companies that are doing amazing work to create great company culture and flexibility around how you work, when you work to meet people's needs. I definitely see that happening, but there's a lot of other organizations that are still in that old way of doing things and where there's resistance all the way around, right? And people are not happy and quiet quitting. I think it's happening it has to be this convergence, but I think organizationally, there's some responsibility. And what kind of organization do you want to have?
Okay, I was going to thank you, Remy. You're a boss. What kind of organization do you want to have?
We're going to
Let's just keep it
both have a
real.
4-day work week. No, but I want look, we're helping companies build culture. We're helping people grow and develop and be their best version of self. And we want to create that environment where people love to work at Zella Life and want to work at Zella Life for a long time, or as long as it serves their journey, their personal journey and their goals, or whatever the case may be. I'm open to listening to all of the ideas and suggestions to create a healthy, happy workplace within, but we are running a business as well.
It's interesting
I
how
get
this
it.
we
I
are
get it.
running a business.
And we are here to be a profitable, scalable, sustainable business. So
Exactly. And is there anything wrong with that?
absolutely not, 100% not. But
Exactly.
but I am about let's work smart, let's be efficient, let's create systems. I have co-founders that are all about efficiency. Like how can we do this to make life easier for everybody? How
Yeah.
can we find solutions so that we're not working so hard for everybody? Us
Mhm.
as a founding team, but also everybody else working within Cello Life. So I think it's approaching it from a co-creator mindset. It's a collaborative mindset. That's the paradigm shift where it's not people dictating down and people, the troops on the ground getting riled up and feisty and demanding and there's a coup happening. We don't want that. It's like, how can people go about co-creating together and being mission vision aligned? And just like you guys in the military, right? You guys had a mission. Everybody had to be in alignment. Maybe not
Yes.
necessarily the tactics that it goes on in the military to get people to do things, but the
No,
point,
from A to
mission,
Z.
vision.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
mission, vision aligned and execute accordingly.
May I interject? Man, you're hitting on some points, and actually, you've already touched on this earlier. Got to have a safe work environment. You're familiar with EAP, right? Employee Assistance Program. Unlike the military, no disrespect towards the Marine Corps, as civilians, there shouldn't be a problem with an employee raising their hand, saying to their supervisor, "Hey, look, you know what? I'm burned out. As a matter of fact, it's affecting my mental health. I'm going to need 3 days. I'm going to spend some time over at EAP without experiencing repercussions."
Mhm.
Fortunately, I'm fully blessed. I work in an environment where it's encouraged. They look at you sideways when you haven't taken time off.
Yeah.
So, what if that philosophy was to spread throughout each industry? I know you guys, you have to promote it because you can't be of service to anyone if you're all burnt out and things like that. I think the biggest challenge with this, without getting political, without getting canceled, is that, let me be careful here. Every company has to generate income to pay its employees. Okay. And it's just unfortunate. There isn't much room you can't slack. Work life balance is interesting. And I don't know that it's doable right now with AI coming around. They're
Mm.
talking about layoffs. I went over to, I'll just say it, Korean barbecue over in Oceanside. Blew my mind. I saw more robots than, no, that's a lie. I saw about, there's almost balance, robots and humans serving food.
Robots
You know,
serving
they have, huh?
robots serving food.
Yeah.
Wow.
Taking your order.
Oh, wow.
It's on my TikTok. A little snippet. Placing your order, going to get the food, bringing it back, waiting right there at your table, waiting for instructions.
Wow.
Work life balance. So you feel burned out, can't take it anymore. Okay. A minute tomorrow, I'll get your last check. Sorry, it didn't work. So they bring in Albert the AI robot. Game over. I know every industry is different, and I don't mean to get too far off. At the same time, when I'm working with people, I get them to look at reality in the present. What can you do to make your life better? Here, it starts here.
Yeah. But yeah, I get what you're saying and where that's going. I don't like to buy into the fear part of it because,
It's
hey,
not fear,
no,
it's
but
reality.
it's, well, yeah, it's reality, but people are operating in fear about, oh, it's going to take our jobs. But this is just, it's progress. Like every generation, we have new things that come along, the car, the train, the computer. Like it's, it's progress. And I see it as it creates opportunity. It creates
So,
opportunity. Let me give you an example real quick of that.
yeah,
So
please.
bringing it up. Uh, we have an amazing young lady that works for us that does our social media for us and also all of our AI reporting. Our reporting, she handles all our analytic reporting, right? But
Okay.
we use AI for that. She was working at a 9 to 5 job. She has a college degree. She was working for a major utility company as an executive assistant at a big organization. Definitely difficult to move up the ladder, just the way they go about things. But she was definitely underutilized, undervalued. She really got bored, but then knowing that you don't want to be there and then trying to figure it out. And so wasn't necessarily trying or maybe stop trying because it's, oh, do I really want to be here?
Mhm.
And But she reached out and was like, "I love what you guys are doing. I'd love to come work with you guys. And if we're a startup and
Right.
we can't pay you
Mm.
your corporate salary."
Right.
And
Mhm.
and she was like, "I don't care. I wanna learn, and I wanna do this on the side." And she now has come in and she is become like a godsend to us.
Wow.
They're growing and scaling, and we're moving quickly now, but she's taken over all of the reporting piece and handling that, and she's learned our AI tool. And I came across a job description that someone had sent me. Look at what they're paying. And half the stuff that they were asking for, she is now doing. And it was
Wow.
a $275,000 job.
Wow.
And I sent it to her and I said, "Look at what you're doing here and how the skills are now filling in over here.
Right.
You're like halfway there to what they're looking for." But it was her getting clear. Let's bring it all back full circle. It was getting clear on who she is, what she wants for herself and to do in her life at this moment in time, right? And it doesn't have to be for forever, but where she sees herself, say in the next 5 years.
Right.
Raising her hand, being vulnerable, self advocating, willing to walk away from something that's no longer serving her and no longer aligned with who she is, and her
Mhm.
goals and her dreams, and willing to come in and roll up her sleeves and play in the dirt at a startup and roll with that roller coaster ride. But she is learning and she's tenacious and taking it on. And amazing skill set that she's building in the land of opportunity. And instead of approaching it from fear. And before we close out, is there anything that you want to say to people watching? Parting words of Dr. Jonathan Dean, Doc.
And Remy, no, we're doing this together. And we're on the same. Woo! Yes, I would like to say number one, don't give up. If you believe that you are suffering psychologically and you are afraid to go to your EAP in your company, find an agency outside of your area and get help. Talk to someone.
Yes.
Before you go to talk to someone to save time and money, get a piece of paper out and itemize your concerns. Develop a healthy support group. No, wait a minute. You may have a lot of friends, but a lot of your friends don't want to hear what you're going through. And it's okay, in all fairness to them. Find those that are in alignment with you. Sometimes it's just that one person that you can confide in. Sit and talk with them. Ideally, you want to find a professional. That way you can just dump things. Oftentimes, I'm more of a confidant than a clinician. People just want to be heard.
Yes.
Also, identify the manager in your department, company, or whatever that you believe you can confide in. Don't turn it into a therapy session, but develop their trust and vice versa so that you can say to them, I think I'm going to have to take some time off. And lastly, which is really number one, the goal should be is to work within your gift, where you're called to be.
Yeah.
Therefore, it isn't work.
Yes. We call it finding your superpower.
Boom.
Finding your superpower. And I'm going to leave this reframe for folks. Someone said to me last month,
Yes.
"What did you do this weekend?" I said, "Oh, I worked." And they said, "Oh, yeah, because you're a workaholic." And I said, "No, I'm not." And they're like, because I was like, "No, I'm not." And they were like, "What do you mean?" I go, "I'm a playaholic."
Mhm.
And here's the reframe around that.
Yeah.
I love what I do every day. I love what we're building. I love that we're helping people. I love that we're helping organizations. I'm living a purpose driven life. Like I found my purpose. We can do a whole nother one on purpose, but I found my purpose. And here's the other part of that. I am very clear on what my superpowers are and the
Yeah.
that I suck at. And I
Yeah.
have no shame in saying, "I suck at this. I
Yeah.
need help or support, or can
Yeah.
you show me how?"
Mhm.
And then I'll go, right? But I need help. So you have to be able to ask for help.
That's right.
But here's what happens. The
Mm,
fact that I built a team and have co-founders
mm.
that have those superpowers at the things I suck at, it allows me to be in my gifts 90% of the time.
That's huge.
90% of the time. So don't get me wrong. There's things I have to do that I don't like to do, but it's also because where we're at as this, company and growing that we have to. We're being scrappy.
Mhm.
And but when you are in that space,
Yes.
when you are in that space, work is no longer work. Work is play. And it feels fun. It like when you're in creative, you're always in creative space. Think about when you used to draw and paint or doing whatever it is you love and you feel like your heart is full. For me, it's the equivalent of playing outside until the lights came on. It's
Right.
good morning, right? It's all those feelings when everything just felt so good, you know, that enjoy, that joyous. That's what
Mhm.
a playaholic is. We are no longer doing workaholic. Death to workaholics.
That sounds like a t-shirt.
I know, right?
I want one. Extra
Let's do
large.
it.
Remy, can I leave on two thank yous?
Sure.
Number one, I'd like to thank God for this opportunity, and I want to thank God for you.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
You're so sweet. Thank you for reaching out and having that chat because it birthed this. And I hope everybody enjoyed. And we look forward to seeing you the next time. And take care.
You rock.
Thank you.